my friends. Welcome. Appreciate everybody being here. J.R. Dukes at your service. Looks like everything is working good so far. I just hit the go button. And we have a lot to talk about today. Got an interesting program. We are all familiar with the breaking news pertaining to this suspect that they arrested in Pennsylvania related to this New York case. So that's going to be interesting to see exactly how this all plays out. I have some interesting things we're going to go over today. Let's take a quick peek at it. Let me just make sure that everybody can hear me. Hello to everyone on the X platform. Thank you for being here today. Of course, on YouTube and on Twitch. Thank you, everyone, for being here. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment, introduce yourself, say hello. Any questions, put them in the chat. And I want to give everyone a link. So if you would like to go ahead and join, there we go. And let me make sure I actually have the actual link. You can use this link to call in. You can go ahead and just appear video just on the phone. I know some of us are shy as far as being on the actual camera. No problem at all. Or you can just use the comment bar below to make a comment. Any questions, whatever you may have, I'm happy to help you all out with that. I am J.R. Dukes. I'm your host. Appreciate you being here today. This is the home of the free-minded patriots. The free mind is all about ending indoctrination, helping everybody think for themselves, living your best life possible by understanding the world that we live in. If you love current events, political events, politics, the law, anything to do with the law, basically keeping an eye on the people that basically are supposed to be keeping an eye on us. I love to talk anything to do with the law. That is what I'm passionate about, how to deal with police, this type of thing. So without further ado, let's take a quick peek at what I got planned today. All right. First things first, I have on the X platform, I have the actual X platform account. Let me pull it up here. Here we go. This is the platform of Luigi Mangione, if I'm saying his name right. This is the guy that's going to be charged. I don't think he's officially charged as of right now, but he shortly will be charged, and he will be extradited to New York City to stand trial for the killing of the gentleman's name is Brian Thompson. Of course, he was the head of United Healthcare. So he is definitely going to be answering for his crime. Everybody thought it was a professional job at first. I wasn't quite so sure. And of course, with the benefit of hindsight, we know exactly that he was not a professional. And today, apparently, he was arrested in McDonald's, of all places. I guess he was feeling kind of comfortable, and he did not think that it was necessary to hide out anymore. But we'll see how that plays out for him. But anyway, I got his account, and I want to go over it because I think there's some interesting things we can look at and just start learning more about him. One thing I want you to notice right away from the top of this page here, right in the center, and I'll blow it up here in a minute. You notice on the back of his neck, it looks like he's had some type of surgery. Somebody has. So I think there's a clear nexus right there that we can draw. What do you think about that? We know that he's apparently mad at the health insurance companies. And it's kind of interesting to see that picture right on the front of his X account showing that there's some type of surgery or some type of surgical procedure that he has apparently had. And as of right now, I have not heard anybody talk about this. I don't have any necessarily specialized knowledge in this particular area. However, I can read his account just like you guys can, and we can make inferences accordingly. This, of course, is not a court of law, so we can pretty well draw our own conclusions accordingly. All right, and then we have some articles. Of course, we always want to talk about Donald Trump and all the great stuff coming our way with his new administration. We also want to talk about the not guilty verdict in the Daniel Penny case. Woohoo! Fantastic news with Daniel Penny. I will say this. I was kind of surprised that there was such a quick acquittal, especially because they hung up on the first charge on was it or was it not actually some type of manslaughter charge. And if they couldn't agree on that, I don't really understand how they came into quick agreement on this lesser charge of some type of negligent homicide. Again, we will dive more into that in a second. And we have some Trump news, as I said. One of his main supporters, main attorney, this Alina Habba, not only is she beautiful, not only is she smart, she is now going to be a direct advisor to the President of the United States. So very, very interesting. And we have a few other stories I want to drill into. I got a kind of a funny that I think is hilarious that we're going to talk about. It's kind of a good way to start off the conversation with Donald Trump here. And we just got some different stories that I highlighted pertaining from Donald Trump to the U.S. Supreme Court. So let's go ahead and drill down into it. Let's start off with this quick little funny here, because I think it is hilarious. So Donald Trump, he is always the consummate salesman, always out trying to make some extra money, right? I don't see anything wrong with making some extra money. Do you? I know you don't, and nor do I. So take a look at this on your screen right here. This is so hilarious. All right, so Donald Trump has came up with a new fragrance, apparently. I'm not sure if he actually sat down and came up with it himself, but the name of the fragrance is Fight, Fight, Fight. There is also a perfume for the ladies out there with the same name, the Fight, Fight, Fight. So very imaginative. One thing about Donald Trump, if there's a way to make money, he's going to do his best to find a way to bring home that money, right? But if you read the caption here, this is what I find hilarious. A fragrance your enemies can't resist. In this particular picture of Dr. Jill Biden, which I believe is kind of a fraud in and of itself, but I digress. Dr. Joe Biden sitting here in France, right beside or a chair from President-elect Donald Trump. That face expression she's got, in my opinion, is kind of a little sultry. It's kind of like that look that says, I really don't like you, but I guess I do like you. It was definitely a fortunate moment for the president to get this, to get this particular picture, and it's perfect for his campaign. I think it's absolutely perfect. You guys like that? Let me know. I just think it's a perfect picture. And I incidentally was listening to the ladies of The View this morning. I know I torture myself so that I can report to you if there's anything that needs to be reported pertaining to the ladies of The View. They were not happy about this particular ad, to say the least. At the same time, they had that expression on their face that said, there's nothing we can do about it. This was a great idea on behalf of Donald Trump. And, it is what it is, right? I think it is hilarious. But again, that is my take on it. And we'll have to see if anybody else shares the same view on it. I'll briefly go over this here. This was on CBS, and it says Trump uses photo of himself with First Lady Jill Biden to announce a new fragrance online. President-elect Donald Trump on Sunday used a photo of himself sitting next to First Lady Jill Biden to announce a new line of fragrances on his Truth Social app with the caption, a fragrance your enemies can't resist. Ooh. The fragrance line, called Fight, 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 includes cologne for women and a perfume for men, each retailing for only $199. Trump is also selling bundles of 2 or more fragrances, with the second item 50% off. He's a businessman, right? According to GetTrumpFragrances.com. I just think that's fantastic. Great. Good for Donald Trump, right? I think that is a smart businessman, and he just continues down that road, right? All right, let's go ahead and jump into the actual stories that I have for us today. I want to just give a quick recap on where we're at. First, we're going to talk about the New York CEO that was assassinated. I want to talk a little bit about who he was. We kind of know what has happened, but I want to catch up on the events of today. And most importantly, I want to drill down on his page that is on the X platform. And here's another little tidbit for you. I asked AI, hey, AI, ChatGPT, let's just take this particular case in general. What is it that he could possibly be telling us? What kind of message could he possibly be sending, considering that he wrote those words on the bullet casing, deny, defend, delay, whatever, and left that monopoly money? Just an interesting little exercise, and I want us to take a look at that together. So let's go ahead and drill down into the first video. I want to do a little bit of history on exactly who this Brian Thompson guy is. Now, of course, he was the CEO that was murdered by this alleged killer. I guess is probably the best way to express it. It's kind of sad, but you probably know that online there's a lot of people that don't feel a whole lot of sadness. Some of the reviews, some of the people making condolence claims or whatnot, it's a little humorous on one hand. On the other hand, it's kind of sick. Somebody was saying something to the effect of, hey, I would offer my sympathies, but I'm out of network, stuff like that. You're getting a lot of that. But here's what I want to do. Let's take a quick look at the victim here. Again, this is CEO Brian Thompson. He was making $10 million a year. And I got to tell you something about that in just a second. Let's listen to this and we'll discuss it. Please put in.
Hi, I'm Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, and welcome to the attendees of Reuters Total Health. Our mission and values are focused on helping people live healthier lives and making the health system work better for everyone. I'm joining you from our Innovation Center here in our headquarters in Minneapolis. Data is at the core of our agenda.
Okay, so you kind of get an idea. The idea here is to get just kind of an idea, if you will, of his voice. How does his voice sound? What is it that he says about his company? Now, I want to tell you, this particular guy here, this is a smart man. Now, I know the guy that allegedly shot him was a valedictorian of his class or whatnot, but this guy is a sharp, or I should say he was a very sharp man himself. In high school, he was valedictorian of his class, and then I think he went to Iowa State, his college, his alma mater that he went to. He finished first place. He was valedictorian of his class additionally. So this guy is extremely intelligent, extremely smart. Both the perp of this crime and the CEO were extremely intelligent individuals. I just thought that was an interesting comparison. However, I want to tell you something. I have no problem with people making a lot of money. I think making a lot of money is great, right? You probably feel the same way too. Why not make a lot of money, right? Everybody likes to make a lot of money. I like to make a lot of money. We all like to make money. My friends, here's the problem. I don't think any human being on the face of this earth is worth more than $1 million a year. Now, if it's your company and you are taking an investment, a risk, whatever, God bless you. Make all the money you want to make. In my businesses, in my professional life, I've made plenty of money, no doubt about it. But I'm saying a company like United Healthcare, and they are responsible for people that need this company to effectively take care of them when they're sick, to pay their claims. And this guy is being paid $10 million a year. That's a lot of money. When you think about that, $10 million a year, let's just do some simple math on that. $10 million a year. If you just divide it by the week, that's making $19,230 a week. That's a lot of money. And I believe the math comes out like it was just a huge amount of money, even if you just go by the hour in computing that particular finding right there. I don't know. You guys agree with that? If you care to, put in the comments. I'm curious if you think there are people worth more than $1 million. And I'm talking about in this type of context. With this type of company, we're talking about an insurance company. And listen, there's nothing in my bones that is socialist, communist, or anything like that. I'm a capitalist through and through. I'm just saying, to me, it just seems like there's something inherently wrong with a person like this being paid this type of money. And I think some of the findings they're going to find out here is not only did the shooter have some type of medical problem with his neck or his back, whatever his injuries were, we're going to find out that this guy, and I found a ton of reports on this, by the way, this guy here, there's a lot of talk about how the reason he was paid so much money is because he was really helping the company find ways to effectively deny all these claims. And I think that had a lot to do with it. I think that had a lot to do with making people mad. And that's the reason why you don't see a whole lot of sympathy online. I don't think it's necessarily right to go ahead and, make fun of someone that died. I'm sure his wife is suffering. I know that they're divorced or they were at least separated for some time frame, but still, that is obviously extremely tragic. But when you're looking at that type of money, that is a ton of money to be paid to one individual. Now, moving on, there's also allegations, and this is where it gets a little more interesting, a little salacious, if you will. There are lawsuits they're finding out that have all of a sudden emerged against United Health. And of course, this is just before this assassination of this particular head, the CEO. So let's take a peek at this, and then we will talk about this particular video. I just want to kind of get your appetite wet on this right here, and we will talk about it. Okay, click, And we're sharing. Okay, here we go. Let's listen to
New
this.
details are surfacing tonight about a lawsuit against Thompson and other United Health Group executives, accusing them of insider trading. Jessica Hart has more on the lawsuit and what it could mean for the overall investigation.
For the past couple of years, United Health has been at the center of controversy. United Health Group announced 2 years ago it was acquiring Change, a healthcare technology company, which piqued the interest of the Department of Justice. The DOJ tried to stop it by suing United Health. They alleged the acquisition would violate antitrust laws, but a judge sided with United Health.
So what the point is, you have lawsuits in front of the Department of Justice. I have also heard, and I'm working to confirm this, and I'll let you know if I find anything out, that this also has some dealings close to some of the individuals, let's say like Nancy Pelosi and other individuals, actually inside of Congress. There's allegations of insider trading. There's just all kinds of salacious stuff written all over this particular case, and we're just going to have to see exactly where this ends up. I for one would definitely be interesting to see where this ends up, but I should say, obviously there's fire, there's a whole lot of smoke. Something has got to draw a nexus on all these. All right, so let's take a look and see who this Lugini, whatever you say his last name, Mr. Lugini, the actual perp. Let's see exactly what and who he is. Now, he is also a valedictorian. I think he is from the East Coast. Let's take a quick peek, and we will chat about this. All right, here we go.
Mangione's name or who he was until he was picked up today. What we have learned so far is that he graduated from the University of Pennsylvania in 2020. We just got confirmation from the university just moments ago on that. He graduated with a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in engineering for computer science and math.
His X account shows a smiling 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. It is the same smile that investigators say cracked this case.
And this is the exact file here on X that we're going to go through. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting information.
NYPD releasing these photos last week after Mangione lowered his face mask to flirt with a woman at a hostel on the Upper West Side where he stayed. These photos went national. Now investigators are piecing together just who Mangione is.
He was born and raised in Maryland. We know he has ties to San Francisco, California, and his last known address was Honolulu, Hawaii. He has no prior arrest history in New York.
Mangione is originally from Towson, Maryland. He is a former Ivy League.
You'll see that bigger picture of the screws in his neck back there right in the center of your screen. That's what really caught my attention when I first started looking into this report. They've also been comparing this guy to a movie, I believe it's on Netflix right now, that has to do with an assassin that's extremely attractive. Now, of course, I'm a guy. I can't really say if this guy is attractive or not, but he looks like a clean-cut kid. He's pretty muscular, obviously. So they're kind of making some comparisons between him and this fictional character on Netflix.
Student who attended private schools. And in a 3-page handwritten manifesto, police say Mangione is anti-corporate America.
We're still working through his social media. We're going to do a complete scrub of that. Preliminarily, like I said, he seems that he has some ill will toward corporate America.
And also today, NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch saying that investigators combed over thousands of hours.
It's kind of amazing to me that they tracked him down so quickly. I know there's a lot of people online saying, oh, it took forever. They should have done this quicker. They should have done this faster. But I don't know if I agree with that. It's a big country, and to do it in, 3 or 4 days, I think that's pretty commendable for the police. Plus, even though they have a lot of cameras, it takes a lot of time to go through all of those questions and all those cameras, rather. And even with the assistance of AI and stuff like that, it just takes a lot to go through all that. And, obviously I'm pleasantly happy that it all worked out and they got someone in custody. Let's go and take a look at his actual page on X and let's see what we can determine on that. Actually, I want to take a look at AI at the same time. Let me pull this up. Okay, we are going to share my chat GPT. Okay, take a look at this here. I went ahead just for giggles here and I asked chat, I said, listen, I'm trying to speculate on the following case, and I pretty well put it in there. This is a fugitive that allegedly shot the CEO dead in New York City, and the guy fled, and he left behind a backpack, and in the backpack there was Monopoly money. And I simply asked the question to AI, hey, why would that likely be? I mean, is there a message? What do you think is behind the fact that there's Monopoly money in there? So here's what ChatGPT said. It said the choice to leave behind Monopoly money in such a scenario could be symbolic, reflecting a deliberate attempt to convey a message about perceived corruption or greed. Here are some potential speculative interpretations. Number one, symbolism of worthlessness. The message is by leaving the Monopoly money, the suspect could be suggesting that the healthcare company's profits or the value they place on money are akin to play money, worthless in the face of human lives or suffering. I think that kind of makes sense. It also says it could be literally be a game he's playing. The message is the suspect might have been implying that the healthcare system or insurance industry is treating people like a game where claims and coverage decisions are based on strategies to maximize profit rather than providing genuine care. I think that also makes perfect sense, right? You guys agree with that? I think that makes all the sense in the world to me on there. And then it goes on. Another possibility, mockery of wealth. The message is the Monopoly money could represent mockery, illustrating that the wealth amassed by the company or its leadership has no real value in the grand scheme. It also came with psychological warfare. Leaving behind Monopoly money might have been intended to provoke, confuse, or amplify media attention. And finally, 5, the speculation by the AI was illusion. 2, well, it's the way, it's just one of the possibilities. Allusion to the acceptability of funds. The message, the suspect might have been committing or commenting on how money, real or fake, is used as a gatekeeper in healthcare, where those only with enough play money can access life-saving treatments. I see that. Personally, I like the illustration pertaining to it being a game and that this is a game that they're playing. And of course, the first one here I think is spot on, how they are manipulating people's lives and profits. And, on one hand, it's all money. On the other hand, you're dealing with human lives or human suffering. I think that's a valid point. If you guys agree, let me know. Because I definitely think it was just not incidental that he had a bag full of Monopoly money that just happened to be left for the police to find. I also don't believe it was just something he decided to do as far as writing on the gun show cases. We've talked about on this program before that when it comes to litigation, everybody that is a professional litigator or that works on behalf of a company, part of the game, and you've seen Donald Trump do this, part of the game is like what he wrote on the bullets there, delay. Justice delayed is justice denied. The more you can delay a criminal case or a civil case, generally speaking, the better off you are, generally speaking. Now, again, there are exceptions to what I'm saying. And of course, they want to depose as many people as you can. That also feeds into delay. It feeds into running up the bill. If you're a big company and you have a small individual, for example, that comes up to sue you, one thing you want to do is you want to use your size to your advantage. Kind of common sense when you think about it. You want to go ahead and make it painful on the plaintiff, whoever is suing you. And the way you make it painful is you make it expensive. And then you stretch it out over time to where they're having a really difficult time and basically footing the bill for their attorney. That's the reason why a lot of these attorneys that practice in this type of area generally take it on a contingency phase. And you see companies, for example, like Morgan & Morgan and some of these other people that you see on TV, it generally takes a company with deep pockets to put up a fight, especially against big insurance companies like this. At the end of the day, it is kind of a conflict morally when you think about it. On one hand, you have a company and their goal is to maximize profit, as any company's goal should be, maximize profit for their shareholders or for their owners or whatever. And then on the other hand, these companies are needed to provide life-saving treatment and to alleviate suffering to people that need this particular treatment. All right, fair enough. Okay, so I wanted to share that with you because I think that is spot on. Let's go ahead and take a look right now into his actual X account. I'm going to blow this up bigger so that we can see it. So let's go ahead and pull this up on the screen. Again, this is his handle on X, and I think this one will look better. Yeah, I think that will do good for now. And I'll read it to you and make it larger, whatever needs to be made any larger. So anyway, this is Luigi Mangione. Okay. Or let me see how to say this. I don't want to keep saying his name wrong. One great thing about the computers nowadays, my friends, is you can just click on it. It'll tell you how to say it. See what it says here. Okay. All right. Well, it's not telling. There it goes. Luigi Mangione. Luigi. So we're going to call him Luigi. I don't know if y'all can hear the feedback from the computer or not, but you get the idea. All right. So his post that he pinned was from December 8th. So this would have been something he did yesterday after this assassination was carried out. I just think this is interesting to think about in that context. So 7 years ago, I gave high school senior speech on this topic. Today, I will be talking to you about the future, about topics ranging from conscious artificial intelligence to human immorality. Likely, you'll dismiss all of this pretty quickly as interesting, but just science fiction. Interesting. I wonder if he's trying to send a message in the event that he is caught. This was something he reposted by Tim Urban, and it's talking about the normal range of possible states for the human race, constantly shifting. One side is better, one side is worse. Let me see how this works. That says, the captioner says, I don't know if the future is going to be a utopia or a dystopia, but it's unlikely to be anything in between. Interesting on there. So, Matt, thank you for joining me today. It's good to see you. Thanks for being here, my friend. Yeah, we have about 91 people right now on the X platform. Welcome to everybody there. My friend on Twitch, hello. And I think we got 10, 11 people right now on YouTube. I know I'm actually at a little bit of a different time than when I normally start, but I appreciate everybody being here. Matt, it's good to see you as always, my friend. Thanks for joining us. All right, so moving on. And just in case you just joined us, Matt, we're looking at the actual X account of this shooter, alleged shooter. I'll say it one time, and I mean alleged shooter, this Luigi guy. And there's his picture. By the way, since we're talking about this, I do want to pull this up. Take a look at this. There you go. You see that X-ray right there? Isn't that interesting? I bet you this kid had some type of injury, some kind of problem. And this is what we're going to find out. This is probably one of his X-rays. Does that look? That's not a neck. More look at it. It looks like his lower back. Maybe he had a lower back problem. At first, I was thinking it was a neck, but the more I look at it, I don't think so. It looks like his. Matter of fact, that's not his neck. You can see right there where the nails are right there. That definitely looks like a hip because you can see the vertebrae right there very clearly. So this is starting to make sense. We're kind of figuring this out together. Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me right there. So there's a good chance this kid has been injured. And I'm going to go on a limb here and say he had a bad experience with his insurance company. And boom, there we go. All right. So let's move it on. He's referencing this. Okay. And then this is on, he hadn't made a post in a while. This first one was December 8th. And then we're going back to June 10th. Dr. Huberman. There's another one that's real interesting coming up soon because I saw people talking about this on TV today. And coincidentally, it's on his feed. And I don't believe anything coincidentally. So it's just kind of something we'll talk about here in just a second. But it says some podcasts, smartphones, and social media impact on mental health and brain plasticity. So obviously this guy has an extreme interest. Anything to do with health, including your mind. This one from June 6, Peter Thiel, on many great startups being run by people suffering from a mild form of Asperger's. Asperger's, if you don't know, that's going to be on the spectrum of autistic type disorders. I think they call it PDD, progressive disability. Well, I'm not an expert on it, but at any rate, Asperger's, I don't know that they actually recognize Asperger's anymore in the DSM-4. However, it's basically a very, very mild form of autism. At least that's the way that I have always thought of it. Matt, my friend, you are the bomb. Thank you so much. You've always been a great supporter of the channel, and I want you to know I sincerely appreciate your contribution, your time, and your patronage. Thank you, Matt. Thanks again, my friend. Okay, so interesting read on that. And this next guy here, Peter Thiel, on Many Things Startup. So he obviously likes this guy. Let's see. On many great startups being run by people suffering from a mild form of Asperger's, and how we should view this as an indictment of our society. You know, this has been all over the news. Incidentally, you hear who was it today? I think it was RFK Jr. Even Donald Trump in his interview this weekend on what was that Sunday program? The one with the one on NBC. That one particular reporter. She's a good reporter. She's definitely woke, but she was trying to grill Donald Trump. It didn't work out that well for her. But they did have this conversation pertaining to vaccines, pertaining to just all kinds of development disorders, and whether or not there's any correlation or is there anything related. Okay, boom, this is it here. This was on, what did I see this on today? This was on, this was either on Good Morning America or The View, or one of those channels. I know I've seen it just in the news in general. This book is one of the top books right now in America. Now, this is dated June 5th, and it says, here's a great summary of the anxious generation in tweets. Thank you. And it says, I've just finished reading Ed John Hattie's best-selling new book, The Anxious Generation. Interesting that he is actually making a comment about this very book that's all over the news right now, at least to the best I can tell. And I don't want to get off on this tangent, but this particular book, if I remember the conversation, it was talking about how many of our kids are using smartphones and using our iPads or whatnot constantly. They were talking about, I think the average teenager is using their tablet like 9-10 hours a day, or their smartphones, and just surfing or scrolling or whatnot. And that's what his point is in this particular book, that this, according to this author, is a very bad thing. It's causing all types of depression and other abnormalities and health issues in our children. Now, I'm not an expert on the subject, but I always believe in balance in life. So let me start up by saying that balance is always key. But when you hear these people saying we should not allow our children on the internet, we should not allow our children to use their computers or to use them often, I'm thinking to myself, what's the matter with these people? If you have a child that's a normal, healthy child, you of course want to encourage them to do things in moderation, get off the couch and exercise, go for a walk, go outside and play. But this so-called call for trying to restrict our kids from having liberal access to the internet, computers, their iPhones. I hear the words, but what kind of world do they think we're going to have in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, in 50 years? You think it's going to be a world where there's more interactive and dependence on technology? Or do you think it's going to be less? And of course, you know the answer to that. And I know the answer to that. And, you know, I get it. This is probably a subject we can all agree to disagree on. I think balance is probably the word I would use in this particular case. But make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, the future is technology. The future is learning how to use and manipulate all these great assets we have at our ability right now. Even this AI on ChatGPT, I just happened to be using. I think this is wonderful. And listen, it's normal when a new technology comes out that we're scared of it. I remember back in the 1980s when computers were becoming more mainstream. You have these people, it's the end of the world. We're going to lose our jobs. Run quickly. We're not going to have jobs. It's over. When you hear that fear mongering, and I guess now we call it gaslighting, when you hear that, recognize it for what it is. Of course, there's always a balancing act that we must balance in our lives, but it is so important for the United States to get ahead of these technologies, masters these technologies, control them. And our children are going to be the people doing just that. I think in the future, it's going to be like one of these movies where we have robots everywhere, doing a lot of our workforce. And it doesn't cut us out of jobs. It's just things are different. It just makes us a more productive society. So my strongest encouragement to you folks is don't necessarily listen to all that fear mongering, all them fearful tactics. And Matt, I'm curious if you agree with me on that. I know you always have a very wise and sound mind on a lot of things. So if you care to chime in on that, feel free to do so. But I think that sitting around and being fearful about it, ladies and gentlemen, is just not what we want to do. All right. So here's another one from May 24th. And he is, Luigi is reposting from Martin. It says, it's amazing how caffeine really is the only drug that has achieved this level of social acceptance. It says, imagine someone saying the first line of cocaine in the morning is one of my favorite things in life, or without my morning joint, I can't function. So clearly, this Luigi, the shooter, is extremely interested in all things to deal with mental health, physical health, this type of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of us that are like that. We're concerned with our health and how we're all functioning. All right, it goes on, May 14th, cellular agriculture is where, and this is one he posted, cellular agriculture is where solar power was 20 years ago and EV batteries were 10 years ago. Says free ethical money for anyone who is paying attention. So he's into something called ergonomics. March 14th, participant, change is on the menu. The revolution continues with At Food Inc. 2 in theaters for special screening. So this is another health-related, I would say, activist-type movie. Interesting. He's quoting this Jonathan guy again back this January. This is fascinating. This is a fascinating essay on two thinkers, Chinese and British, whose goal was to help Western capitalism to destroy itself, and CCP may now see TikTok as a way to do that. So clearly this guy is kind of an activist think of mind, or, he's in that activist state of mind is probably the best way to say it. Zach, my buddy, thank you. Thanks for being here, Zach. I appreciate you too. Always enjoy having everybody here, but definitely my regulars, it's always appreciated. And just quickly, if you guys want to do something free for me, all my friends on X, I got like 92, I think, right now. You can go ahead and hit that heart button. And if you'd like, go ahead and subscribe. That way, when I go live, and you'll get different little videos and stuff that I pop out here and there. And the same thing, of course, for YouTube and Twitch. Hello to everybody on the platform. All right. So moving on, it's everything's health related so far, right? He says Christianity's decline has unleashed terrible new gods. New atheism assumed that as people abandon Christianity, they would embrace a sort of enlightening secular position. The death, let's see what this says here. Say the death of Christian Scotland shows this was wrong. Faith there has been replaced by derangement at the birthplace of the Scottish Enlightenment, who rose out of Christian principles. So he's really into this type of stuff, and he seems to be very knowledgeable about what's going on in Scotland. That's interesting. And this kid is an American. He does have a heavy Italian background. I think that's obvious. And he's got family, I believe, that are also Italian. So I don't know, I don't know how he's into Scotland, but that'd be interesting to check out, would it not be? All right, April 18th, modern Japanese urban environment is an evolutionary mismatch for the human animal. This kid has a very interesting array of taste here. He's quoting this ad, Rosie, the native population of Japan is falling at a rate of 100 ppl per hour, down for 500,000 K. All right, well, interestingly enough, folks, we've talked about this on this channel too, about population decline. So it's interesting to see a young man like this shouting about population decline. All right, let's back up to his page right here. Okay. All right. Okay, so he's reposting Daughter of Wolves. If you want to understand men better, just look at all the movies they made, books they've written, and the games they invented when they're young. He says Netflix, Dash Store, and TrueCom podcasts have stolen more dreams than failure everywhere. So clearly, he is not a person that like social media. I think that's fair to say. Netflix, DoorDash, and True Cinema have stolen more dreams. It's interesting to hear him talk or hear him tweet, I guess you could say, and hear who he also reposts. Kind of gives us a window into his mind, right? If not his soul outright. At least that's kind of the way I think about it. Zach, yeah, Luigi's surgery probably left him in chronic pain and no effective pain medication. I don't know. That is one of the problems with our society now. You know, at least you have the politicians all screaming about how bad opiates are and how bad the medications are. And again, there's always a balance, right? I do remember here in Florida, what was it now, 15, 20 years ago, you would drive down here to Florida. I mean, they'd have signs right on the highway saying, you know, basically pull over and get a prescription for pain medication, take your oxy back home, whatever. Clearly that's ridiculous and that's way over the top. But now I have friends that are very sick and they have a lot of daily pain, this type of thing. And now they really have a hard time actually finding a supply of a narcotic or any opiate that they may be on. And these people are really suffering as a result. And have you noticed that society is almost like a pendulum? You know, like on a clock, it just swings, you know, this way, and then it swings back hard this way. It's like when it corrects, it swings back too far one way. And I don't claim to have all the answers, but I will tell you one of my consistent themes on my channel is I just like the government to stay the hell out of stuff. I don't want to see a bunch of people addicted to drugs and stuff like that. At the same time, you know, my views are probably more libertarian than some of my other views are. And when it comes to this type of thing, I think people need to make up their own choices, short of people just lying around addicted all the time. I just think adults should be able to make adult choices, and we'll just let it go at that. But anyway, Zach, is surgery probably left chronic pain? Yeah, I think so. I think that's a high possibility. That's the reason why, and we'll take a look at it again. If y'all haven't seen that, we'll look at the top of the page. The top of his page is header at the very top up there. He's got what is clearly some type of x-ray, and after looking at it closely, he has had some type of pins or screws put into his lower back. I don't know what kind of injury he's had. Maybe we'll come across it here. Tonight's show, what we're kind of doing, at least at this particular segment, is we are all on kind of a investigating sleuth mode. I have not seen anybody doing this yet. I haven't heard anybody talking about this yet. But when I came across his page on X, I was like, wow, we got to go over this. We got to check this out. So we all get to be sleuths together. Julianne, thank you for being here. Always appreciate having all of you here. And Zach says, or given a prescription for physical therapy. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he's probably in a lot of pain. I'm not sure if pain pushed him over the edge or what. I'm not sure what that's all about. But we will continue to check into it together. All right. He also makes a post of, where was this one? Now, this is April 5th from Mike Benz. Whenever I see legacy media handling, or I'm sorry, a media legacy headline, I can't unsee this skit. All right. So he says poor country. So obviously he's into that. He's got a very, I would say, a very left wing kind of mind. Not there's anything wrong with it necessarily. I'm just saying that he's definitely on the left is probably the best way to say it. He's not happy about poor countries, and he's into minorities and all this other stuff and drugs. You kind of get an idea of what his mental state is. My political philosophy is the opposite of whatever this is. That's what it's got chimed in down there. And again, he goes back to someone named Tim Urban. I don't know how big his channel is or is not. Let's see. Oh, he's got a big channel. Yeah, Tim Urban. I'm not familiar with him, but it says here, he retweeted this. Luigi retweeted this. I'll soon become ubiquitous among upper-class families to restrict kids under 16 from using social media. Hopefully, the trend spreads to all families before too long. 100 times easier to enforce the rule when all parents are doing it. Boom. We're already seeing a theme. Y'all notice this? Already seeing a theme. He does not like this social media. He is definitely worried about kids and their mental health. And I think that's admirable. I don't see nothing wrong with that. I don't agree with him, but I don't think that he is, I don't think he's necessarily nuts for pointing this type of stuff out. He just obviously thinks differently about it. He also reposted Your commitment to long-term civilized success, of course, he's talking to the owner of X, is not universally shared. So he's talking to Elon Musk. It's not even the majority position. What you call the woke mind virus cares about one thing only: equality. The levers want to destroy everything because the rubble, we will all be equal. In the rubble, we'll all be equal. So let's see, and then this was in response to a post by Elon Musk. This is the battle to the death with the anti-civilized woke mind virus. Okay, so we understand the context a little bit better there, so that's no problem. Sapphire, we're always glad to have you in the chat, my friend. Thanks for being here. We got about 9 or 10 people on YouTube right now. Probably got some other people trickling here very soon, and about 92 or so on X. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. All righty, so continuing on, what we're doing right now, if you're just joining, we're taking a look at the X page of this guy that is, I guess he's about to soon be charged with killing that CEO of United Healthcare, that Brian Thompson. I believe he was 50 years of age. So unfortunately, he was assassinated right in front of that hotel just a few days ago. And we're trying to simply get a picture of what this guy is thinking. Why is he doing what he's doing? And so far, it's clear that he has some type of connection with the healthcare industry. He has some type of injury, obviously, with his lower back, is what it looks like to me. And again, we'll take a look at that X-ray in just 1 second. All right, so this next posting: ancient Rome was the world's most powerful empire for 500 years. We talk about that on this channel, right? At its height, Rome boasted of its roads, public baths, and much else that was close to miraculous for the rest of the planet. Then come the Great Fall. What has happened, or what happened, has lessons for the world today. Amen to that, right? We talk about that all the time, huh? And now this is something he actually wrote. He says, these are phenomenal. Took me years to learn on my own. And he's referring to, I've been going to the gym for 10 years. Here were 50 things I wish I had known from the beginning. Interesting. So he's obviously, I would say so far, he's injured. He's well built. You can see the pictures of him. So he's clearly a person that is into exercises, enjoys exercising. He is into mental health, physical health, and I would say he's an advocate for younger people, especially. He does not want to see kids overusing social media. I can respect that. I don't agree with it, but I can respect it, right? All right. He also posted, this is in March, essential read to understand modern civilization. And it's got some type of link here. I'm not sure what that is. That is old books guy. If I find what that book is, I'll let you know. And he posted January. What are your thoughts? It looks like he took a screenshot, actually. I don't know if this is his account or someone else, but it says, what are your thoughts on this quote from J. Krishnamurti? It says, it is no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. It's kind of interesting, is it not? He is definitely not a fan of current society. Let me try to minimize stuff here. Okay. It says, and this is Neil Harrington from a year ago that he's responding to. It says, those who feel strong aversion to adjusting to a mal-adjusted society, are deemed mentally ill, alcoholics, substance abusers, or slackers. They are corralled into 12-step groups and or mental hospitals, or placed on medication, or even just shunned, all in an attempt to make them comfortable and fit in, when what really needs to change is society itself. Just as gun legislation will not end the senseless mass shootings, because what we really need to do is stop generating psychopaths as a culture. Oh my goodness, is that not sweet justice? Irony? What's the word? Help me. I need a bigger word. This is crazy, isn't it? This is him commenting on someone talking about cuckoos, people that engage in mass shootings. Very interesting. And he is the person responsible for this crime, allegedly. What are your thoughts on this quote from Jay Krishnamichi? It is no measure of good health to be well adjusted in a only sick society. So clearly, ladies and gentlemen, he does not like the society we live in today. Just interesting to me. I don't know. Let me see what y'all think about it. Julianne says 200 billion in profits while no extended care for seniors. Yeah, I do agree. I don't know if you were with us at the beginning of our conversation, Julianne, but I kind of mentioned it on here. There are clearly problems, and I'm a capitalist. I mean, I like people going out hustling, doing the grind, doing the hustle, making money. I think that's great. A lot of my views are libertarian. I mean, I could go on and on. Of course, when it comes to healthcare, it's a little bit of a dilemma. On one hand, these companies are trying to make a profit for their shareholders, and on the other hand, it's like you just said, Julianne. These people need help. There's seniors. There's old people that rely on this money. It's interesting. That's a good comment. She goes on. He saw the huge profits and lack of care. I think that that's kind of where it's pointing to. I think you're absolutely correct about that. Cindy says crazy to go around killing people for no reason. Yeah, I totally agree. But Cindy, I will say in this particular case, and I'm not saying it's justified, so I got to stop putting all these caveats on everything I say. Everybody knows what I mean, but I do it anyways. You should not kill anybody. Duh, right? At the same time, I don't know, Cindy, that he, in his mind, in the mind of this individual, I don't think he thinks he has no reason. I think he's doing it because of something that he's upset about in the healthcare system. Probably what you're talking about, or we've been talking about earlier, about greed and money. I think that's clear when you look at the monopoly money. The interesting thing is, to this gentleman that was killed, this Brian Thompson, he was scheduled that day, if the reports that I read are accurate, he was supposed to that day be talking at an investors conference or a shareholders conference. And one of the points he was going to brag about is how they were expected to grow something like 400 billion or something like that. And their profits were at an all-time record high. So I don't know. That's going to be interesting to see where this all, where that all lands out. And yeah, of course he's mental. I agree with you on that. Zach says he won't like prison society. Yeah, that's a good point. And he'll probably appreciate that. He'll probably wish he had access to the internet once he's in prison, because I doubt that they have very liberal policies about the internet. You know what? I just thought of this. He wants there to be restrictions on the internet and people's access to the internet, right? Well, he's about to get his wish. And don't worry about it, Luigi. You're going to be just fine. And Cindy, MK Ultra. Yes. All right, Sapphire, I read that Thompson was due to testify against Pelosi. Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, Sapphire. I was just hinting on it gently. That was my understanding, too. There is some connection to some of the, let's just say, political individuals in the country, specifically Nancy Pelosi and some others. We'll have to see how the events unfold, but it's going to be interesting. I'm sure there's some ties somewhere. I do know this. We were discussing briefly some of the public records that have already came out, that United Healthcare already has some pending actions involving the Department of Justice coming after them for a list of problems. So on one hand, lawsuits are normal, especially in this type of industry. Lawsuits are normal in a lot of industries. Lawsuits are just part of life, especially here in America. In this particular situation, though, I think you have to look at the whole picture, and I think it's going to make a more complete picture of exactly what is going on. And okay, I'm glad we all got a nice little chat going on here. See, Jack, just the title state. Yeah, amen on that. I'm being sane in insane places. I've felt like that a lot. Zach, you ever feel, folks, that you are the only sane person in an insane world? That's a feeling that I'm sure many of us have had at one point or another. So, all right, continuing on. Mr. Luigi. I hope I got to practice saying his name right. Luigi. Oh, well, Doogie. All right, replying this. Can this trash be illegal? And he's replying to Snow Life which is, oh, he's got like 2 or 3 parts. So I'm going to try to read this best I can and put it together because he's obviously complaining about something. I used to get bummed in math class. Now this is the shooter talking. So this can give you a little bit of an insight into his mind. I used to get bummed in math class when learning theorems. We all remember that from school, right? It says all the low-hanging fruit has been solved before I was born. If I was alive at the time of the Pythagoreans, I could have easily derived the Pythagorean theorem and etched my place in history. But now I feel lucky for my 21st century education. I get to simply download the knowledge of all who came before me, allowing me to stand on their shoulders and ponder new problems they wish they never, I'm going to start that over, and ponder new problems they never would have had access to. And finally, in 5th century BC, Pythagoreans discovered algebraic theorems. If 19th century Darwin discovered the evolution of the species, then what topics does the 21st century mind explore? I'd say evolutionary psychology, primitive neuroscience, and information networks. Well, one thing's for sure, folks, this kid is not stupid, right? I mean, as far as the education goes, he talks very, very thoughtfully. He's obviously highly educated, right? So it's interesting to kind of listen to what his thoughts are and kind of drilling that back together. Does that, thanks, Sapphire, it's Luigi. I'll practice on it. You know what's funny is, I don't know if y'all can relate to this or not. I don't consider myself old, although I know I'm getting older. When I was younger, I used to have the most crisp, fantastic vocabulary you've ever heard. Well, let's just put it this way. I could speak like this kid, right? As I've gotten older, it's like I get tongue-tied on the stupidest nonsense. And it's aggravating. I've just learned to deal with it, laugh about it, and just move on. One of my sisters told me that sometimes as people get older, you run across stuff like that. But it is interesting and aggravating at the same time, right? Matt, he's challenging the system. I think so too. I think that's my take. If anybody else has a take on what I just read, I'd be interested in your take on that. What I might do before tomorrow is copy these quotes of his, put it in AI, and just ask them, hey, well, what would you tell me about a person that, as far as their personality goes, that makes these types of statements? I mean, what could you infer from that? It'd be interesting to kind of make a list. But Matt, I agree with you. I think he is challenging the system. I think that's a theme throughout what we've already went through. And he's talking about another book called Nexus. He's reposted this. My new book, Nexus, will be published this September. It considers how information networks have made and unmade our world, from the Stone Age through the canonization of the Bible, Stalinism, Nazism, to the current resurgence of populism. I tell you what, this kid, he's got a focused taste on the society that we live in compared to the past. And Zach, sounds like his level of intelligence in contemporary society is inadequate. Yeah, I agree with you on that. He's one of these kids that has, what do you call that? Book smarts, but he doesn't have any sense. At least that's what I used to say. He's living in he doesn't understand the world we live in. He may be highly intelligent, but he's just stupid in the sense of common sense. That's about the best way I can say it. Julianne, you're right. It's Ivy League school. There's no doubt about that. And, I think, education is fantastic. The more education you have, I think that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that at all. The education is always a big asset that you have. And if you want to earn more, you want to have your own businesses, the more education you're going to have, the better off you're going to be. And we all know that. Matt, my health care, I spent $10,000. An insurance company picks up 80% after that. Yeah, it's the healthcare is a mess. There's no question about that. You know, that's the reason why a lot of seniors, you see them moving to places like Texas and Florida. And I just love talking about asset protection and things like that. I have people even now that contact me pertaining to older videos that I have involving Florida asset protection. And what happens, man, is like you're talking about. Unfortunately, life happens. You know, generally speaking, if we live long enough, we're all going to die, right? Number one. Number two, generally, unless you're killed, you're going to die of some type of disease process. That's just the way life is. There's some type of disease that's going to knock you out. And what happens is, at least the expression I used to always tell myself, is you spend your health trying to obtain wealth, and then you spend your wealth trying to keep your health. So is it life, right? So you have a lot of people that end up moving Texas, definitely Florida. And one of the reasons they move here is because when you own your house here in Florida, you cannot lose it except in very, very limited circumstances. You will never lose it because you owe a medical bill. It's something that is just absolutely excluded pursuant to the state constitution of Florida from 1983 that says in part that you cannot lose your house in the state of Florida. It's similar in Texas, but Florida is the most friendly debtor jurisdiction in the world. Again, it's a subject I'd love to talk about. A lot of people don't think anything about it, but you'll think about it. Most people think about it, unfortunately, when they have a problem. For example, they're a doctor, and they're a great doctor. They're a fantastic doctor, but we're human and we all make mistakes. And unfortunately, the doctor at some point does make a medical mistake. It exceeds the amount of insurance he or she is already carrying. And then they have this huge judgment against them. And if it's not protected, they end up losing their wealth that they worked their entire life for. So it's a serious subject. I get a lot of people contacting me even now pertaining to questions on asset protection. It's something we all have to think about, and it kind of all ties into what we're talking about. And the fact that that Matt was telling me $10,000 and then 80%, they pick up 80% after that. It's just a lot of money. I mean, when you're on a fixed income and you're an older adult, $2,000 of the first 10,000, that could be a hurdle for you to try to overcome. So I'm just throwing that out there for what it is. It kind of all ties together. Zach says he undoubtedly was given all A grades for a very average performance and wonders why he's not super successful. Probably, Zach. Matt, I will take my money to Thailand. I hear a lot of people say stuff like that too. I want to put my money off. See, they got this thing where, what island is that? But they got this Nova, Scottish, whatever. They got these trusts and they advertise to Americans. Oh, don't ever lose your money. Your spouse can never take it. Just give it to us, and these particular Novus islands, it's by law that the money can never leave here. You have to be the one to authorize it. And it has to be something that we have to be certain that that's not compulsory. In other words, you don't have a judge holding a gun to your head saying, produce that money. We will simply not release the money. What they don't tell you is that what happens is when you go to court and you say, Judge, you can't get my money. It's over in this other country, in these islands right here. And they know I'm under duress. I mean, you judge can order me to move my money and redomesticate it here back in the United States. But the reality is they know it and they won't do it. The way they set up the trust agreements for that particular country, that's just the way it works. And so what the judge says is, she says, you know what? You got me. You're right. You're just too smart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find you in contempt of court and you're just going to sit in jail indefinitely. That's the way it works. You just sit in jail unless and until that money is brought back to the United States. What they call repatronize. You have to bring the money back. And if you can't get the money back, the judge will just find you in contempt and you'll just sit in jail. I've seen that happen many times. So I'm not saying that Thailand's a bad idea, Matt. I'm just saying that there are people that try to work the system like that. And it doesn't work like that. As far as money in Thailand or whatever other country, I have no problem with that. It's probably a good idea never to keep all your eggs in one basket. As for me, I personally like United States banks, but I realize everybody else has different things they're looking at in their life. Zach, okay, and at any rate, that's a good point, Matt. A lot of people do that, and depending on your situation. There's nothing wrong with doing that. No, nothing wrong with having money in Thailand. So don't misunderstand me. I just got thinking about that Novus Trust or whatever it is that I used to talk about a lot, and I've seen people get in trouble for that. Okay, so moving on. Let's take a quick peek here. So we're back to our buddy Luigi. All right. He thinks he's real smart, too. He even tells us he thinks he is smart. Quote, being smart makes you more prone to confirmation bias. Well, that's true. In retrospect, it shouldn't have been surprising. Confirmation bias is what happens when the little lawyer in your head takes control of your thinking process. And smart people have a very smart little lawyer in their head. He must be talking about me. No, I'm joking. This kid's definitely smart, but he's young, and unlike us, he doesn't have that experience that he should have. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate your comment. Really do. All right, Rosemary Fiera, thank you for being here, young lady. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. And by the way, Matt, I appreciate your understanding of my comment. You know, I consider you a friend, and sometimes I go off on a tangent, and I'm thinking to myself, I hope I didn't sound like I was slamming his comment, because that was not my intention. I just like talking about asset protection and trust, and I started getting off on that tangent. I'm like, hey, it may have sounded like I was trying to torpedo him, and I don't want to do it. That was not my intention, and I appreciate your kind words and basically telling me you understand. Thanks again, Matt. I do appreciate it. All right, moving on with this here. And we're going to go down this a little while longer, and then I want to switch to some other topics for the rest of the time we have together, and we will pick up the rest because I'm going to go through his entire account, Lord willing. I want to put the pieces together and see exactly what is going on with this. And by the way, we do have a great crowd tonight. We have a little bit less than we normally do on YouTube. We got 9-10 people right now. We have like 95 plus on the X platform, and of course our friends on Twitch. I do appreciate each and every one of you being here. Again, thanks. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. If I haven't told you, by the way, I am J.R. Dukes. I know it's a little late to introduce myself. We are the homes of the free-minded patriots, here to end that awful indoctrination. So I appreciate everybody being here. Be sure to subscribe so you know when I go live again or a video comes available. All right, let's keep going down here. We're still right around February, January. It bounces back and forth. We have our buddy Luigi saying, I believe this book will go down in history as the most important philosophical text of the early 21st century. And again, he loves this Tim Urban. I'm going to check this guy out. My book, What's Our Problem, is now available. But one of y'all mentioned that he hates society. I think y'all are exactly right about that. He is railing against society, and I think it was Matt that mentioned that. But that's spot on. He does not like the society we're living in, and yeah, that's exactly right. Zach sounds like his sounds like his level of intelligence in contemporary society is inadequate, and y'all's comments are right on. Okay, let's make sure I don't have any other questions in the comments here. Zach says, yes, it is very intelligent to get caught offing some fixed life. Yeah, okay, I take back my comment. This kid's intelligent, because he's definitely not. He's not acting very intelligent. May sound intelligent on X, but he's definitely not very intelligent on there. So he goes on. He obviously likes this book. I'll drill more into that and see exactly what that is. I think that y'all are right, though. The main thing that we have here is this is a young man that in his mind, he's some type of activist on just the way life is in general. And I would say he clearly has been injured. He does like reason. That's interesting. It is sad that the question of are men important can't be answered with a simple yes. So, like many people, he's got different thoughts that may seem inconsistent with each other. But I'll get back to y'all on that, and we'll check into that. I just think that's very interesting that he feels like he does not fit in. And y'all's comments are right on. Matt, excellent. When I am listening to his name, I thought of Sammy the Bull. Yeah, Sammy the Bull's got his own channel, too. It's kind of interesting to listen to. I forgot his handle, but you also check that out on YouTube. Sammy the Bull Guvano. I did one or two videos on him, and obviously he's an old man now, but he's interesting to listen to, especially when he talks about his mob stories and different adventures, we'll call them, that he likes to talk about occasionally. Zach, he does not fit in society. Maybe he excelled as a scholar, but his glory, yeah. Well, he's definitely, his glory days are now over. I think we can all agree with that. That is not the smartest thing to do when you're trying to be successful in life. Deciding you're going to blow away as CEO. I will say, I think in his mind, I think it's clear he thought he could get away with it. He thought we've all met people like that. People who think they're so smart, they're so good, and they can pull it over everybody, right? We've all been there. We know what we're talking about. I think he's clearly one of those individuals. He was caught today at a McDonald's eating breakfast. So clearly he was feeling comfortable. He did not feel like he had to worry about being caught, right? I think that's a pretty reasonable thing to figure out. And we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see if how this all plays out. But clearly he made way too many mistakes. And it is what it is, right? Ain't too much more we can say about it as far as that goes. All right, let's take a peek at this. Make this as large as possible. There we go. All right, I'm going to briefly go through some of these articles here. This is in the New York Post today. A suspect in fatal shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson IDs as Luigi Mangione. I promise I'll practice that and be a very proficient name speaker. But y'all know on this channel, I can't say anybody's name, so I'm sure you're used to that. If you want to hear someone talk perfect English with names, you need to tune in to one of those translation channels. I said he's an ex-Ivy League student, like Julianne was telling us a little while ago. All right, we're just going to hit the highlights on this. The suspect nabbed in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thomas is an anti-capitalist Ivy League grad who liked online quotes from the Unabomber, remember him, guys, Ted Zelensky, and seed in a manifesto, quote, these parasites had it coming. So more of his so-called manifesto is going to come out. So we're going to get a lot on how his mind works as soon as we get an actual hold of his manifesto. That's going to be interesting. This, of course, is according to law enforcement sources who spoke with the Post on Monday. It says tech whiz Luini, 26, originally from Townsend, Maryland, apparently hated the medical community because of how it treated his sick relative, sources said. He has not been charged in the slaying, but was taken into custody Monday morning while eating at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, ending an intense manhunt sparked by the cold-blooded execution of Thompson outside a Manhattan hotel last week, sources says. And there's a picture of the handsome young devil himself, right? I love this picture right here, too, by the way, in the back of the cab. I've heard folks say, oh, he was taunting. He was looking directly in the camera. I've been in cabs, like I'm sure you have, too. He probably was just glancing at the ID or the setup on the cab and just caught his face. I don't think he was trying to necessarily taunt anything, but I could be wrong. Oh, we got a copy of his fake driver's license. This is interesting. Look at this. The manifesto consisted of 2.5 handwritten pages that mirrored the quotes of this individual posted on Goodreads account from wacky anti-establishment Ted Kaczynski, the infamous Unabomber. We all remember him, who terrorized the country for nearly 2 decades by mailing deadly bombs before he was nabbed in 1996. So this is a good-looking ID, fake ID at that. Mark Rosario, Maplewood, New Jersey. Yeah, I don't think so. Imagine a society that subjects people to conditions that make them terribly unhappy, then gives them the drugs to take away their unhappiness, Kaczynski wrote at one point in a quote liked by this shooter. Science fiction. It is already happening to some extent in our society. These are consistent with some of the posts we just read from his X account. I think that's very interesting. And this is what I'm talking about, this kid being buff. Can you see that right there? He's pretty ripped. He's obviously hiking. Looks like it's Hawaii is what it looks like to me, because that's where he's originally from. And then of course here he is with this I want to choose my words carefully for YouTube reasons, but he's got his firearm right there. And I believe this is what they call a ghost gun is what they're using for this here, because it is a well, they found one on him. I don't believe they have actually confirmed that this is actually the weapon, but it's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. It talks about he subscribed to anti-capitalist and climate change causes, according to law enforcement sources, citing online activity gleaned by authorities. He was approximately 276 miles west of New York City. I don't know if y'all can see that map clearly enough or not. And of course, everybody was looking for him all the way down in Atlanta and the Atlanta bus stations. I have friends, they're in Atlanta, and they were telling me they had police. If there was a Greyhound station, any of the towns in Atlanta or surrounding Atlanta, they had police coming in and out of there all day long today, which of course is highly predictable. It says, as I told you earlier, he was valedictorian of his 2016 high school graduating class at the Gilman School in Baltimore, where he played soccer, according to online sites. High school tuition at the all-boys school is nearly $40,000 a year. Something else I heard, too, is that he is related to a state legislator, I believe in Maryland. So that's another little interesting piece. Plus, I'm curious why the state legislator did not come forward. Of course, it's family. I can tell you with a straight face, I'm not sure if I would turn family in. I guess it depends who in the family they're talking about. Okay, my jokes are really dry. Apologies. Okay, he said at the time of graduation that he planned to seek a degree in artificial intelligence, focused on areas of computer science and cognitive science at University of Pennsylvania, according to an interview with the Baltimore Fishbowl. A tech hotshot graduated cum laude from a private Ivy League institution in Pennsylvania with a Bachelor of Science Engineering, a BSc degree, Computer and Information Science in 2020, according to his LinkedIn profile. He also completed a Master of Science in Engineering, MSc, Computer and Information Science at the University of Pennsylvania. His profile states his LinkedIn suggests he is a data engineer at a car company based in California, although he lists his current home as Honolulu and Hawaii. That's what we were talking about with that one picture. So there's going to be a lot of information come out about him. It's going to be interesting to see where what all the details have when this all comes down. Let me check your comments one more time before we move on. Yeah, I guess eventually we will hear from his parents. That's pretty funny. That probably didn't mean it to be funny, but I'm sure we will hear from his parents. I didn't think about it quite like that, Julianne, but that is a good point. All right, let's make sure I didn't miss anybody's comments or any type of questions here. Yeah, and Zach, you're right. He doesn't fit in society. He's definitely in trouble. And yeah, he'll probably be roomies with Kohlberger. That's pretty spot on. Man, I hope he ordered from the McDonald's app. Hopefully he got 20%. Yeah, that's pretty stupid getting caught at McDonald's, ain't it? Should have ordered a Happy Meal. Amen. His last Big Mac and McDouble to die for. Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine what that's like? You're sitting at McDonald's, you're working at McDonald's, and this guy comes in, and I mean, he's got those distinctive eyebrows and eyes. It kind of to me, when I first saw the photo, I was thinking to myself, this guy is like from Turkey, or he is like Spanish. I even thought, well, maybe Italy. He's Italian, something like that. So it's pretty clear. I have an uncle that's Italian. And he's my favorite uncle, as a matter of fact. He's Italian, and I don't want to say he looks like this guy, but he did when he was younger a little bit. So easy to pick out when you know what you're looking for. So yeah, Julianne, I guess we will eventually hear. Yeah, we'll hear from his parents. You're right. BK Cheeseburgers. Awesome. Of course it is. All righty. I think that's the comments we're caught up on. And let's see. How does an Ivy League scholar make a name for himself? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's a lot of money for school. Somebody was paying that bill. That is a lot of money. Matt says he's smart. Data engineer, more bacon. Okay, good. All right. So without any questions on that, we're going to go ahead and switch. We have, let me pop back into this right here. Now, I will, as time allows, I will pour through that tomorrow because I know there's going to be a lot, let's just say there's going to be many more morsels right there for us all to chew on. Folks, I have to show you this next video here too. This one here, I'm going to give you a little bit of a warning. It's just a little bit violent, but normally I don't want to say I have a habit, but a lot of times I'll come across something to deal with the police, and I'm generally pretty critical of the police. I love our police. I love our men and women in blue. They're very necessary. But on this channel, I've talked many times about the need to reform police and policing in America. But this is an exception tonight. This happened right here in Tampa area where I live in. I am way north of the Tampa area, but this happened here in what's called Hillsborough County, which is kind of like the main county for Tampa. And this is the police, especially this one police officer that went above and beyond the call of duty, and it was caught on body camera. It's kind of shocking, but this woman was being held at knife point. You see that guy that's right on the side of the video right there? This guy was going to kill her. I think they had a feud, like they lived side by side. At any rate, he goes in, shuts the door, and wait to see what this cop does. You talk about going beyond and above the call of duty. This is a good cop. This guy is a good cop. Let's take a quick peek at it, a short clip, and you'll tell me what you think about this. This cop literally goes through this window, a glass window.
People can go around hitting people for all that reason.
That time?
Yeah, you want people to take care of you. I'll crash this chair.
I'm 10-4. I'm on the wrong
He's
side.
lucky I didn't grab a hold of him and kill him.
Right.
I would have killed him on self-defense if I would have got a hold of him.
Paul, relax.
But yeah, well, you tell him that. Because if I would have got a hold of him, I would have snapped his neck and he would have been dead.
Okay.
He was standing outside. There was two of them.
Okay. All right, cool. Do you see what apartment they went into? Okay. Give me a sec, all right?
No!
Come on, Jason.
This escalates really
Come
quickly.
on.
So,
No!
Mom,
I did nothing to you.
can you let me in, please?
No! I didn't do nothing to you.
just so you know what's going on, the guy retreated inside his apartment, townhouse, whatever it is, and refused to open the door. This guy produces a knife, and you're going to see him holding it to the body and then the throat of this female, his neighbor.
No! No! I didn't do nothing to you.
Jason, listen.
I didn't do nothing to you.
Relax. Hey, man, just calm down, okay?
Jason,
It's okay.
put the knife down.
No, he's got it.
He's got
He's
it.
got it.
He's got it. Shoot.
I don't got it.
Let him go through that window.
Wait, they're taking me to jail.
Put the knife down right now. Knife down right now. Knife down right now. Knife down right now.
For the best high school football
Oh, sorry
coverage
about
in the
that.
Tampa Bay area. Don't miss.
I'll get that right back on for you. That's one thing I don't like about not using YouTube is that you have the
Sponsored by Academy Sports
mute that right there. It'll pop back up in a second. Here we go. It's not popping back up. My bad on that. I can't believe it did that. That's crazy. That's okay. I got the video. I promise I'll re-rack it and bring it for you guys. The bottom line is this police officer, at least you got to see him go through the window. That's the main thing. I'll pull the actual video up and I'll transfer it to YouTube so we can see it uninterrupted. But you've seen the majority of it. You've seen him go through that window. Now that's a cop going above and beyond. You realize going through a window like that could literally be fatal. It could cut you into a million pieces, right? Well, they break through that window, head straight for that bedroom. This guy's got that knife right at that woman's, where, and the cop takes care of it with just one shot. So amen to that. And you're right, Matt. That is a That's one badass cop. I agree with you totally. Very, very good for that cop. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that, Zach. Some of the police officers, they do put up with too much stuff. I totally agree. And again, that's why I'm always careful to explain these type things. If I see something wrong that's done by a law enforcement officer, I will definitely pull it out or point it out, I should say. But when I see something that is so clear cut above and beyond, I just have to do what I just did, and that is to show it to you because it's just too important not to point out good deeds when someone does something like that. Okay. Now, listen, I want to switch gears because we have to talk about Daniel Penny. The fantastic news today. I'm so happy that this worked out the way it worked out because straight up, I was concerned that it was not going to work out the way we want it to work out. And I have the video right here. We'll take a quick peek at the video before we move on. Matter of fact, Hannity has a great article, and I think he's got a video on this too. But let's go and take a look through this because I want to talk about it. And I think I have a video here of them celebrating. Give me 1 second. I want to narrow down the correct video so that we can watch it together. Because what they did is they went out afterwards together, and they basically just had like a lunch. I do have it for y'all here so that we can watch it together. All right, let me pull this up to share. All right. So I'm not sure how they got to a not guilty verdict. And this is on the lesser charge. Remember, the top charge was the actual manslaughter charge. And that, for some reason, was a charge they were hung on. The good news for this Daniel Penny is that the judge went ahead at the urging of the prosecution and dismissed that charge, that top charge. Now, at the time, I wasn't too happy about it, and the defense was not happy about it because that's kind of a cold, cruel way to kind of trick the jury into going with a compromise verdict, basically the lower charge. Technically, a judge is not supposed to do that. At least I've never seen it done quite like that, where they dismiss the charge. But it is something unique to New York. Most of the time, when we see cases like this, generally what happens is you have a jury that's considering both charges, and they refuse to convict on the top charge. So kind of as a compromise, they agree to go ahead and convict on the lower charge, where in New York City, or New York State, I should say, you can't do that. In New York State, you have to work at the top charge first. Then, and only then, if you cannot come back with a unanimous guilty verdict, then at that time, you can consider the lower charge. But even in that situation, you generally don't see it to where they just outright dismiss that particular charge, talking about the upper charge. But here's the good news. When the judge dismisses that first charge, he's off the hook. That's it. You cannot have what they call double jeopardy, where they try to re-bring up that charge. I've heard talk about them trying to do that. They're not going to be able to do that. That would clearly be double jeopardy. But the really good news for this Daniel Penny is that the jury came back with a unanimous verdict on the lower charge. So he was facing like 4 years. Now, I can only guess as to why the jury had a hard time convicting on the top charge, but all of a sudden with the lower charge, they agreed. I mean, that is kind of weird. Y'all get that, right? It's just kind of odd. I don't really know why that is. The only thing I can reasonably guess is that the jurors are just like me and you. They see what's going on. They're not supposed to be watching the news. They're not supposed to be paying attention to what's going on, but they do. It's a human nature thing, I would argue. I would say that, and by the way, there's 2 attorneys that I know of that's on the jury right now. And I'm certain that one or both of those attorneys, when they went back today to convene to deliberate on these charges again, I'm pretty certain that somebody made the comment that, hey, this is unusual. This is irregular. And boom, they decided that we're not going to let this guy suffer anymore. We couldn't agree on the first charge. We're going to go ahead and we're going to let him walk on the lesser charge. Matt says he could have good. Yeah, you're talking about the policeman. Yeah, that was a good cop. I have to agree. Sapphire, Daniel needs to move out. Yeah, there's a lot of violence going on right now. He may want to consider getting a little bit of a reprieve for a while. I totally agree with that. Let me hit this article real quick, and then we'll talk about it. Not guilty. Jury reaches verdict in Daniel Penny chokehold trial. One of the things that made this case complicated, I try to see it from both sides, all right? What the prosecution will do is they'll take the entire clip of Penny up there with the other guy in a chokehold. So he'll be on this large screen TV, and the whole time you'll see Penny right there choking this guy by the throat. And that's hard on any juror. I mean, I'm just telling you straight up. And when they play the clip, you know they're playing it like at 0.01 speed. I mean, it's just really slow for dramatic effect. And that's what starts confusing one or two people on the jury. I'm almost certain that that's what happened in this particular case. So a Manhattan jury cleared military vet Daniel Penny. And you know what, folks? This has to have a chilling effect on Good Samaritans in New York City. If I'm in New York City and I'm on the bus and I see some type of problem or some type of threat, I would have to think, am I going to get involved? I'm a white guy, of course. If the guy that is making a threat to people is not the color that I am, we would all have to think about that, because we know the Alvin Bragg administration is all about race, is all about politics, is all about perception. He did not even indict Penny for 10 days. This case was sitting on his desk, and only when some of these so-called advocates, these protesters started protesting on the street, they decide, hey, I'm going to go ahead and indict the guy. And that's exactly what happened. And justice is not supposed to work that way. It's just straight out not supposed to work that way. All right, so he was cleared, this Daniel Penny, of any wrongdoing in the chokehold death of a violent subway vagrant. And yes, this guy's name was Jordan Neely. On Monday morning, the panelists acquitted Penny of criminal negligent homicide, which could have put him behind bars for up to 4 years. In Neely's chokehold death aboard a crowded uptown F train. That's a good name for that train, ain't it? An F train. In May 2023, manslaughter, the top charge against Penny, was tossed on Friday after jurors twice said they couldn't reach a unanimous verdict. Jurors sided with Penny's defense attorneys, who argued that the Marine was justified in rushing to protect his fellow subway strap hanger when he subdued the homeless man. The lawyers had also questioned whether there was sufficient evidence that the chokehold caused Neely's death. That was another thing, too. There was lots of evidence in this case that, the guy was breathing. His chest was going up and down. This Neely guy was breathing after you had Penny stop choking him. He was standing on his feet, and the guy on the ground, Neely, was still breathing. But guess what? The police were concerned about obtaining a disease or some type of problem by doing mouth to mouth on Neely, so they just refused to do it. And how do you determine at trial what killed him? Was it Neely and the restraint he used, or was it the police and their refusal to provide life-supporting treatment, or a combination of both? I mean, if you're going to put someone in jail for a crime, shouldn't they prove that crime? What a novel idea, right? But that's where we were with this particular case. The lawyers had also questioned whether there was sufficient evidence that the chokehold caused Neely's death. We just talked about that. It goes on. Who do you want on the next train ride with you? One of his lawyers, Stephen Reiser, in his closing statement to the Manhattan Supreme Court. Yeah, because he was, it says, the guy with the earbuds, minding his own business, who would be there for you if something happened, or perhaps you just hope that someone like Jordan Neely does not enter the train when you are all alone in a crowd of others frozen with fear. And I think the most outrageous thing, you hear his father, you hear the protesters say, oh, the guy was just hungry. The guy was looking for food, because he did ask for food or ask for something to drink. But they conveniently leave out that this Neely guy was making threats of violence and making statements like he's perfectly okay going back to prison. Doesn't bother him at all. Well, obviously, you would be very concerned, and anybody would be concerned. And that's exactly what Penny did. He knew there was children there. He saw the children. Most of the individuals I saw on the videotape, well, let's put it this way. They were either older or they were out of shape. There was nobody except Neely that had a chance to help everybody out and protect the kids and the other elderly individuals that were there. I mean, it's a shame it even went to a trial. I think that's just the bottom line when you get right down to it on there. Sapphire says Daniel needs to move out. Yes, he does need to move out. There's a lot more to come on that. I would have to wait and see. I bet there's probably going to be a lot of violence, a lot of protesting going on overnight. Julianne says he had a heartbeat, but first responders refused to do mouth-to-mouth. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I heard. Excellent job on that. That's I thought that's what I read, and I remember them talking about that in this particular case. So, all right. So I want to make final comments on this because we've been going for just over an hour and a half, and I don't want the J.R. Dukes Power Hour to become the J.R. Dukes we don't know how many hours. I want to kind of keep it to where we don't exhaust ourselves, but it's been a great conversation, and it's been a great day for President Donald Trump elect. I'll push most of this over to tomorrow, but the highlights, the main highlights from today is that his attorney, what's her name, Alba, she is going to be his counselor. She's going to take the place that Julianne Conway had for the president, which I think is a good decision. She has been very loyal to President Trump elect, and I think he made a good choice with her. There's also discussion that the nominees, Patel, Gabbard, Hegseth, senators now are coming forward in a report to, it's called independent.com.uk. At any rate, these senators, many sources they have there on Capitol Hill said they believe the rest of Donald Trump's cabinet will be confirmed. And I'll tell you one other thing, too. I am so happy. And Julianne, you're right. Kellyanne Conway, thank you for that. She's going to be replacing, well, not technically replacing, but she's going to assume the position that she used to have. That's exactly correct. And you know what? She is so smart. She's very talented. I think that's just wonderful. Well, it's just a wonderful pick. I think she's fantastic. Yeah, Alina Alba. That's exactly right, Sapphire. The Power Hour Plus. I like that, Zach. I think that's what I'll start going with. The Power Hour Plus. Anyway, you have it's looking good for Donald Trump's cabinet. And I wanted to say this before I go. I'm happy that Donald Trump has done what he's done so far. I mean, I would have liked to see the Florida man, Matt Gaetz, actually assume the position at the DOJ that he was nominated for. But I get it. It probably wouldn't have happened. So Donald Trump allowed him to withdraw, this type of thing. But it's time now for Donald Trump to stand strong. It's important as a leader that you stand with the people that stand with you. Again, I think there's a lot more to the Matt Gaetz situation as far as what transpired there. Maybe Donald Trump originally appointed him to, hey, let's see what happens. And at the same time, it helped Matt out in the sense that report that the House had been working on for 2 years was not released, and it should not be released. Let's hope it continues to be like that. If Matt was to go back to Congress under their own rules there in the House, they are supposed to start the investigation all over again. So it just saves him embarrassment, harassment, probably embarrassment more than anything, especially with his wife or whatnot. But that's what's going on there. But Donald Trump needs to stand with the people that he has nominated, with the people that has stood by him, like this Pete Hegseth and these other nominees like Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, come on, she used to be a Democrat, and they're out there slandering her as some type of Syrian Russian asset because she had the gall to meet with our enemies like Assad. I think if Donald Trump has taught us anything, it's part of the Trump doctrine, if you will, is we need to pull our heads out of you know what, and we have to talk to the people we disagree with. We need to stop saying this person's not worthy, therefore we're not going to talk to you, like Kim Jong-il or this Assad. Of course, he's no longer a problem now, but my point is the same. Just like Putin, you have the Democrats saying that this Putin's terrible. He's the fascist. Where have we heard that before, right? He's just the most evil person in the world. Therefore, we shouldn't talk to him. Ladies and gentlemen, he's setting on 65 to 7,000 nuclear weapons. I think we need to talk to him, and that's exactly what Donald Trump knows needs to be done. So I'm proud to see Donald Trump doing that. I'm proud to see that President Trump-elect is standing with his cabinet, or at least the people he's put forward to lead these different agencies, and I hope he continues to do so. And finally, any of these senators that do not support Donald Trump and his agenda, I sincerely hope they primary these people. They do what they did to Liz Cheney, and they simply take out these rhinos and get them the hell out of there. I mean, that's just the way that I see it. So, and you're right, Sapphire. You need to meet with everybody, and that's pretty straightforward on there. So, all right, my friends, I appreciate the time we've had today to visit together. It's always a pleasure when you come by, stop by. If you will subscribe, you'll know when I go live again. You'll be able to be first in line to join our chat. I want to take a quick moment. Thank everybody on the X platform. You can find me on X at simply at Reach JR Dukes. All the other platforms is at JR Dukes. True Social at JR Dukes. And of course, YouTube is at JR Dukes, and all the other platforms. I'm on 4 or 5 different platforms. And I hope that I see each and every one of you again. May God's bless and anointing be on you, your family, especially in this Christmas time season. What a beautiful time of year to be with your family, your friends, your loved ones. It's just a great time to be with the ones that you love, and never lose sight of that. Just all the blessings and how blessed each and every one of us are. It's truly a blessing to have time to talk with you. And like I said, I hope the Lord's anointing and blessing is on your lives until we meet again. I always say, my friends, keep your mind free, never give up. I also want to say thank you to my friend, Matt, for your super chat. Matt, thank you so much. You're very kind. Till next time, I am JR Dukes. Have a good evening, everybody.